It's been 1 year since one of the deadliest drunk driving accidents on Minnesota roadways. 5 people were killed just outside of Rochester.
ABC 6 News reporter Sarah Swistak shares the story of the sole survivor of that crash, highlighting just how dangerous Minnesota roads really are. Tonight, she wraps up her series telling us what law enforcement says needs to change to make our roads safer.
It's been 365 days since Rita lost her family in a drunk driving accident. 365 days without hugs, without laughter, without the ones she loves.
I wonder sometimes how I do get through. I guess I take it one day at a time, but there's some days that are just totally unbearable, and those are the days that I don't get out of bed.
And if that's where Rita spent the rest of her days, most people would understand. But Rita isn't most people.
Some days I wish I would have just went with them, but I think the good Lord left me here because I still need to get the word out not to drink and drive.
Out of the ashes of a year's worth of tragedy came the crusade of a lifetime. Rita will not only tour the state to speak out about drunk driving, but will do so with a piece of the accident by her side. This is all that's left of that van. A Mother's Day present meant to keep Rita and her 5-week-old son safe from harm. Now a mangled mess of metal and plastic. And in the weeks to come, it will be loaded onto a flatbed trailer as part of Rita's mission to end drunk driving once and for all.
Drinking and driving is like loading up a gun. Once you put the keys in the ignition, you've been drinking, you're loading a gun to go off.
If it's 1 in 100 that sees that van and thinks, you know, I'm not going to drink and drive, that's a pretty powerful message.
If you actually see the vehicle, if you actually can, walk right up to it and see the blood stains, it gets to be have a lot more impact on people. And you get people to think about it, and hopefully if they've consumed a couple of beverages, alcoholic beverages, they might remember that scene before they get behind their own wheel.
But Rita isn't stopping there.
You can preach all you want not to drink and drive. That doesn't mean people are going to obey the law.
So Rita is setting out to change the law. As it stands now, driving under the influence for the first time is a misdemeanor in Minnesota, the same as if you were to drive without a license. It doesn't come with jail time, only a fine and probation, where it's easy to fall through the cracks.
Misdemeanor probation officers generally might have 300, 400, 500 cases at any one time. They can't possibly supervise those people that strict. So it would take gigantic additional resources in corrections, in prosecutors, in defense attorneys, and in the court system.
And a complete paradigm shift in the legislature, including a massive increase in funding to the court and correction system.
If we had those resources, we could do a better job, but that's a huge if.
And it needs to stop at the courts, not the law enforcement taking them off the street and the courts putting them back on the streets.
But local law enforcement agencies say they could benefit from more resources too.
Are we doing enough? Obviously the problem still exists, so there's a lot of work to be done.
And they'd like more manpower to do it.
We feel if we had that, a squad of 4 officers and probably a supervisor, that we could certainly put a pretty significant dent into the drunk driving problem.
If we have more officers on the road, yeah, likely we're going to take more drunks off the road.
But that could take years. In the meantime, Rita will continue spreading her message to anyone that will listen.
If I stop one person, I've done what I feel like I'm out to do.
So no one else has to go 365 days without a hug, without laughter, and without the ones they love. In Rochester, Sarah Swistak, ABC 6 News.
The drunk driver in that crash, 26-year-old Christopher Frisch, was sentenced to 5 years in prison and 2.5 years probation.